My name's Josh Kasbohm. I took both these bucks in Washtenaw County. The buck on my left here, my first encounter with him was October 25th. I had set a tree stand up, we call it the junk pile stand. This deer had come through like right at last light. Neighbors had pictures of him maybe a mile away, so I knew he was only in the area for a little bit. I was lucky and drew the hot hand, had a hot doe in there. He ended up hanging out around me by my tree stand for probably an hour after dark. I probably waited 2 hours after dark just to make sure I didn't spook him. Took the hard way up to the house to make sure, didn't bump him. The next night was the Michigan Notre Dame game, so I attended that football game. It was a washout anyways. He had actually walked past another tree stand that I had set up. So I went and hunted that stand on Sunday night, and of course that night he comes in the exact same spot, but that night he tracks off and follows the doe past the stand that I had set in on October 25th. So there was a spot where he had hit the exact same scrape, so I had taken a half day of work. My neighbor generously offered to come out and help me hang a stand in that spot. So we knew he was bedding probably within 120 to 150 yards of that location, so we snuck in there really quiet around noon, got the stand hung without a whole lot of noise. I went back up to the house, took a quick shower, and headed right back out. Around 5:30, there was a 3.5-year-old 9-point chasing does in the food plot. And all of a sudden, just like you wrote the script, he come in on the exact same line out of the exact same bedding area, and that one happened pretty quick. He come right in, worked the scrape. I made the shot, and he ended up piling right up there in the food plot. And that was, at that time, that was the biggest buck I'd ever killed to date. He dressed out at 235 pounds. And was 143 inches, so that was the biggest buck I'd ever killed then. So, and then the one on my right, I had, it was a couple, encounters with him the previous year. I actually passed on him. He was probably like 135, 140 inch buck. He had the moniker, the Split G2 buck in our area. We have a co-op in the area. A lot of the neighbors have seen him. We've all kind of shared pictures. We all work together. I passed on him real late in the year. It was a somewhat marginal shot, but it was late in the year and I knew he would make it through the year. So I let him walk, and I'm definitely glad I did. So fast forward to this year, my first picture of him was August 1st. It was right on the edge of a bean field. We knew he was going to be something special, but we didn't know where he went. I was never able to find his sheds, unfortunately. We found pretty much every other buck in the area's sheds, but not his. So we were hoping he was still around, and that August 1st picture, I sent that out to the guys in the co-op, and everybody was like absolutely stoked for season. We had last year that was a phenomenal year. We had a lot of good bucks running around too, and so after I shot this deer, I had kind of been taking it easy, just enjoying, celebrating. I had maybe set a couple other times real close to the house. It was kind of on that lockdown area. On November 6th, I went and sat the same stand that I shot this buck out of, and it was probably maybe an hour before dark. Once again, that exact same 3.5-year-old buck is bumping does in the food plot, and I'm just out there kind of enjoying myself, and I'm not even really sure how I missed him, but all of a sudden I looked out in the food plot and he's standing there. And this thing has been a ghost to everybody in the area. I mean, we've all had trail camera pictures of him, but I did notice that I was getting pictures of him closer and closer to daylight leading up to this. I had just checked my trail camera, I think the day before, and I had pictures of him right at dusk, so that's why I chose to set that stand. He came out and he started working a line of scrapes through the food plot there. There's a little island of trees, and he was started at 45, 40, and 35. I had practiced with my bow all summer. I was super comfortable at the 55 yards. I told myself I'd never take a shot on an animal at that distance, but I thought I would take a shot at 35 yards. I drew back on him, and I don't know what it was. It was probably maybe a little bit of overconfidence because he had a doe that was right there with him that he was tending, but she was right underneath my tree stand, and I thought, you know what, I'm not gonna rush this shot. I've kicked myself in the butt so many times before. So I actually let down, and he, sure enough, circled around, comes through. I had a gap between 2 oak trees. He's clearing the first oak tree, and I'm just about ready to let out a meh to get him to stop, and that doe takes off and he runs 300 yards away from me. So I can see him. There's some white pines in the area. He's bumping this doe around in there, and it was probably 45 minutes I had to watch this, and I mean, I'm thinking I'm the biggest idiot ever. Like, I should have taken the 35-yard shot. And that 3.5-year-old 9-point, thank you. He got after that doe, bumped her back in the food plot, and it was, I mean, that buck chased her right out there, and I shot him out of the same tree stand, standing in the same scrape that I shot this buck in. When I shot, I didn't get a pass-through on him. I had a very small window to shoot, and I was kind of hugging right up tight to his shoulder blade. And when I didn't get the pass-through, I'm like, oh my gosh, I just hit this dude. I just dinged him in the shoulder blade. Like, you know, I can still remember him running away. I can see my Lumenok hanging out of the side of him, running through the white pines. It was definitely like a little unnerving. I'm like, man. And then my neighbor, I texted my neighbors that I had shot the deer, and my neighbor texted me, said, call me right now. So I called him, and he said he had seen a deer that looked like it was wounded come through there. So I'm thinking, oh man, I just screwed this up. So they told me to wait a little bit, and it felt like it was 2 hours, but it was probably 15 minutes before they got to my house. And so these are a couple guys from the co-op. We went out there. You know, they're asking me where was the deer standing when you shot, and I kind of pointed to the area. And we never found any blood. And I just said, hey guys, turn your lights off. Let's see if we can maybe see the Lumenok somewhere. You know, I said he was running through the brush. He probably busted it off. And turn the lights off and nothing. Turn the lights back on. The one neighbor there, all of a sudden he said, oh, he said, I got your Lumenok there. And he started walking over there, and he said, that ain't your Lumenok, man, that's your buck. And he saw the glare of the eye, and like, this guy's just an absolute giant. He's ripped, and like, so I'm like, what? He said, I got your buck. And I go running over there. He grabs me a big old bear hug, and we're jumping up and down, and it was a great feeling. And I mean, honestly, being able to share that with the guys in our co-op has been fantastic. I would say for anybody else out there, and I even felt the exact same way, like, you almost look at your neighbors as enemies or direct competitors for the deer you're going after, but talk to your neighbors, because the experience has been 10 times better, you know, since getting together with the neighbors. You'll be amazed at how similar of goals you guys have, what you guys can accomplish. You know, we've done a really good job on passing on deer, and I think it's just the beginning, right? You know, we're gonna probably have some even maybe bigger deer come out of here. So it's definitely been a great experience, and I would encourage anybody to definitely talk to your neighbors and try to start a co-op, because it's made a tremendous difference. And yeah, that's kind of the story on the 2 bucks. So the bigger buck on my right, he grossed 174 and 4/8. So pretty good Michigan season, putting down 315 inches of antler, you know, 315, 320 inches of antler on the ground. I was pretty happy with that.